When my daughter-in-law looked me in the eye and said, "Now that your wife's gone, you have no place here." I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I simply walked back to the basement where I'd been sleeping for months. By the end of the week, I had rewritten my will, changed the locks on my own estate, and sent out a single email that would shatter the image of the perfect family she thought she controlled. I didn't always live like this. For most of my life, I was just a man trying to survive. Offshore rigs, double shifts, holidays alone, all to pay for a life I never got to enjoy. And yes, I missed birthdays. I missed school plays. I missed them. But when my wife died, I thought maybe I'd get one more shot. I moved in, ready to be present. I offered everything I had, my pension, my hands, my time. And what did I get? Silence from my son, cold glares from his wife, and eventually, eviction from the house I helped them buy. This isn't just about being pushed aside. This is about every parent who gave too much and was forgotten the moment they had nothing more to give. So before we dive into this story of respect reclaimed and truths exposed, make sure you're ready. Because what happened next proves one thing. Sometimes the quietest man in the room holds the loudest truth. The first thing I noticed when I stepped through David's front door was how different everything felt. The walls were painted a light gray, cold, like the silence that settled between us. The pictures hanging weren't ones I recognized. No trace of Mary, no trace of me. It was as if this house had never belonged to the bloodline that ran through it. David didn't say much that day. Just a nod at the airport, a quick, "Hey," and then silence for most of the ride home. Sarah did all the talking, bright, composed, too composed. She asked about my health, how long I was planning to stay, not out of concern. Her words were polite, but her tone asked a different question. Why are you here now? Mary had died 4 months earlier. Cancer. Quiet, brutal, and fast. She was the glue, the voice that made silence between me and David tolerable. When she passed, I was left with 2 suitcases, a folding pension, and a lifetime of regrets. I sold our little house in Texas, kept it quiet. No one asked anyway. I had enough money stashed, decades of offshore work, never taking vacations, never missing a shift. The money wasn't the issue. It was time. I thought maybe I still had some to give. When I told David I wanted to stay for a while, just to be close, he nodded. Not warmly, not coldly, just nodded. Sarah, standing beside him with arms crossed, said nothing. The first few weeks, I did what I could to be helpful. I fixed the door that stuck, mowed the lawn, made breakfast when they ran late. I tried to make myself small, polite, invisible, present. I slept in the basement guest room, no windows, smelled like dust and forgotten Christmas decorations, but I didn't complain. I didn't want to give them a reason to see me as a burden. Every now and then, I'd hear my grandson laugh upstairs. I wanted to join him, teach him how to play chess like I did with David. But Sarah said, let's not overwhelm him. He doesn't know you yet. So I waited. One evening, Sarah found me washing dishes. She leaned against the fridge, arms folded tight. You know, she started, not even looking at me. It's just odd, how you show up now, after all these years. I paused, dish halfway to the drying rack. David told me how it was. You missed birthdays. Left his mom alone for holidays. You were barely there. I opened my mouth, but she raised her hand. I'm not blaming. I'm just saying, it's late. I nodded. I didn't argue. Maybe she was right. But that night, lying in the basement on the creaking old mattress. I stared at the ceiling and thought about how many birthdays I'd missed because I was 300 miles offshore. Thought about the times Mary cried on the phone, whispering that David had asked again why Daddy never came to school like the other dads. Thought about the nights I worked through storms, thinking I was doing it for them. Maybe I'd been building the wrong kind of home all along. Then came the moment. It was a Friday night. I heard raised voices upstairs, muffled but sharp. A door slammed. Footsteps thundered down. Sarah appeared at the top of the basement stairs, arms crossed, eyes blazing. She didn't even wait for me to stand. "Now that your wife's gone," she said, her voice flat and final, "you have no place here." I looked up at her. No anger, no tears, just quiet. I didn't flinch. I simply turned back toward my cot, pulled the blanket over my legs, and closed my eyes. They thought I came here because I had nowhere else to go. But I came because I still believed in family. Mornings were the worst. They used to let me eat breakfast with them. That lasted maybe 10 days. Then Sarah started waking up earlier than usual. By the time I came upstairs, the table had been cleared, the chairs pushed in. Only the faint scent of toast and eggs lingered in the air. One morning, I sat down anyway. The plate I had made for myself was simple: scrambled eggs and half a banana. David walked past the dining room without a word. Sarah stopped at the edge of the kitchen, saw me seated, and tilted her head. "Jack," she said, "we're trying to keep a routine for Logan. Mornings are overstimulating. Could you eat downstairs? Just for now?" I nodded. She smiled, like it was settled. Just for now turned into always. Eventually, she started labeling food in the fridge. Notes with names. David's lunch. Logan's snacks. My items, when I had them, were stuffed on the bottom shelf. A single loaf of bread. A half-gallon of milk. Cheap things. Things that wouldn't be missed if they went bad. They changed the TV password, too. I found out when I tried to watch the news. The screen flashed, "Please enter your PIN." I asked David later. He didn't even look up from his phone. "It's just something Sarah set for Logan's safety," he said. "You can watch downstairs, right?" I could. I did. I said nothing. Logan was the only reason I stayed. He'd come down to the basement sometimes, when Sarah was too busy to stop him. He'd bring Lego bricks, dump them on the floor, and sit beside me as if I belonged in his world. We didn't talk much. Kids that age don't need words, just presence. But then even that started to change. Sarah began filling his schedule with after-school programs. Karate, music, art, always something. "He needs structure," she said. I asked David, via text, if I could take Logan to the park one Saturday. His reply, "Kanban, Jung Sen Vao." The words were short, but they hit harder than they should have. I started writing things down. At first, it was just to remember. Then it became something else, a kind of quiet rebellion, a record. March 3rd. Sarah told me not to enter the kitchen during family meals. March 12th. Logan asked where I was during dinner. Sarah said, "He eats when we're done." March 21st. Found my pillow in the laundry room. Wet. No explanation. I didn't plan anything with it. Not yet. But the notebook gave me something the house didn't. Clarity. One afternoon, I overheard Sarah in the living room talking to Logan. Her voice was soft, saccharine. "Did you know? Grandpa once left your daddy and Grandma for 2 whole years. No phone calls, nothing. Grandma had to sell her jewelry to pay the bills. It was really hard. Logan was quiet. I wasn't. That night, I opened the old box Mary left me, the one with her handwriting, her keepsakes. At the bottom was her journal. She had written in it, mostly when I was away, sometimes to vent, sometimes just to feel like she had someone listening. I flipped to the entries from 1989, the year David turned 10, the year I supposedly left. Jack called again from Louisiana. He sounds so tired. I didn't tell him I sold my necklace. He'd just feel worse. But this debt won't pay itself, and he's doing everything he can out there. I wish David understood. Logan asked again if Dad's coming home for Christmas. I told him yes, even though I know Jack won't make it. I'm just so tired. But Jack's trying. I know he is. She never gave up on me, not even when it was easier to. I stared at those pages for hours. The ink faded, but the words never softened. They struck harder than anything Sarah could have said. I wasn't a perfect man. I was absent, yes, but not by choice. I was building a life, paying off Mary's hospital bills, working through storms and sweat so they could eat, sleep, live. Sarah never knew that. David forgot. But I didn't. The invitation never came. I found out about Logan's birthday party by accident, overhearing Sarah on the phone, confirming the cake pickup and final guest count. 40 people, backyard tables, balloons in blue and green. I didn't ask why I hadn't been invited. I already knew. That morning, I heard laughter outside, balloons being tied to the fence, folding chairs snapping open. I stayed in the basement, hands trembling as I folded laundry I'd already folded twice. The party started at 2. By 3, the smell of grilled meat drifted down through the vents. Music played. Kids ran through the yard, shrieking joy. At one point, I crept up the stairs and peeked through the narrow window near the door. Logan was laughing, chasing a balloon across the grass. David stood at the grill, a beer in hand. Sarah circulated like a hostess on television, polished, perfect. I didn't see my chair out there. Around 4, the basement door opened. It was Logan. "Grandpa, are you coming?" he asked, cheeks flushed from running. Before I could answer, Sarah appeared behind him. Her hand rested firmly on his shoulder. "He's resting," she said, smiling thinly. "Let's not bother him." Logan looked confused. "But it's my birthday." "I know, sweetheart," she said, louder now. "But Grandpa needs quiet time. He's not really part of this, okay?" Then she looked at me, really looked, as if daring me to make a scene. I didn't. But something inside me fractured. When the party ended and the yard lights dimmed, I packed a duffel bag with 2 changes of clothes, my notebook and Mary's journal. I left a single sticky note on the nightstand. "Don't worry, you were right." I slipped out the side door, unseen. Sarah never called. David didn't text. They assumed, I'm sure, that I had nowhere to go. They were wrong. By noon the next day, I had keys to a 1-bedroom unit at a modest complex a few blocks away. It was nothing special. Peeling paint, thin walls. But it was mine. No basement, no labels on food, no locked TV. I spent the first few days in silence. Not grief, not confusion, just recalibration. Then I called Harvey. He was the lawyer who'd helped settle Mary's estate, a good man, straight shooter. He remembered me immediately. "How's the family?" he asked. I paused. "I need to rewrite my will." Silence. Then, "Come in Monday." Over coffee in Harvey's office, I laid out everything: the savings account, the Texas house sale, the offshore pension. All of it added up to just over $600,000, money I had planned to divide between David and Logan. "I want to change it," I said. Logan still gets his share, but not until he's 18. And only if he's no longer living with Sarah. Harvey raised an eyebrow but didn't ask why. And David? He said. I shook my head. No direct inheritance, not after his silence. Harvey leaned back, folding his hands. You sure? I'm not angry, I said. I'm just done rewarding indifference. Then, almost as an afterthought, I added, also, I need to talk to you about a security system. It had been his idea months ago when I first mentioned how Sarah had started locking cabinets and moving my things. Document everything, he'd said, quietly. So I had. A small motion-triggered camera tucked in a bookshelf, another near the kitchen, one near the back door. I showed Harvey the footage, some of it trivial, Sarah's side glances, her dismissive tone. But some wasn't. Her blocking Logan from speaking to me. Her standing at the top of the stairs, mocking my handwriting. The day she whispered to David, "He's a leech. He just wants your money." Harvey watched without comment, then nodded. This changes things. It's not revenge, I said. It's insurance. He gave a tight smile. Sometimes they're the same. Harvey and I spent 3 weeks finalizing the paperwork. It wasn't just a will anymore. It was a blueprint for truth. The trust for Logan was airtight. He'd receive his full inheritance, nearly $300,000, but only if he met 2 conditions. He had to be at least 18, and he had to have lived independently from Sarah for at least 1 year. Not because I wished distance between them, but because I wanted to give him a chance to see the world without her filter, to form his own judgments. The other half of my estate, $300,000 more, was allocated to a nonprofit that supported elderly individuals abandoned by their families. Fitting, I thought. Quietly poetic. Then came the video. I spent days editing it, not for drama, for clarity. I included short clips, Sarah blocking the hallway as Logan tried to reach me, muttering under her breath that I was dead weight. Her laughter with a friend on the phone, mocking my pitiful attempts at bonding. The day she told David, he's not here for family, he's here for leverage. I didn't add music, no narration, just timestamps and raw truth. At the end, a message. Logan, if you're watching this, it means you're old enough to make up your own mind. Ask questions. Don't let silence speak for everyone. I had it uploaded to a private cloud folder, timed to email his personal address, the one I had discovered on a birthday card I once helped him write, on his 18th birthday. I never intended David or Sarah to see it. This wasn't their story. It was his. When the documents were notarized and the plan complete, I packed a small box, my wedding ring, Mary's journal, a chess set I used to carry on rigs, and the signed trust agreement. I placed the video backup on a flash drive at the bottom. Then I dressed in the same shirt I wore at David's graduation, just because. And I walked back to the house one last time. It was early evening. The sun was dropping low, casting amber through the trees lining their yard. I knocked on the door like a stranger, though I once held a key to that lock. Sarah opened it, surprised, but only for a second. Her smile was tight, cold. "Well," she said, arms folding across her chest. "Back already?" I held up the box. "I'm not staying," I replied. Her eyes flicked to the box, then back to me. "You came to collect your things?" she asked, glancing over her shoulder, clearly hoping David wouldn't walk into this scene. "No, these are yours." I stepped forward, placed the box on the threshold. "In there," I said calmly, "is a copy of a trust fund. It's for Logan. He'll get it when he's grown and no longer living here. Sarah narrowed her eyes. I don't need your money. I know, I said, but he might need the truth. She scoffed. Is this supposed to be some dramatic farewell? What, did you write a memoir too? I didn't respond. She smirked. You'll regret this, you know, walking away like some martyr. You could have had peace here. I tilted my head slightly. You once said I didn't belong here anymore. You were right. That seemed to confuse her for a beat. Then the mask returned. Well, she said, biting the edge of her nail. I guess this is goodbye then. Don't expect Logan to remember you. I paused, letting that sit. Then I took a breath and looked her in the eye. The next time he asks why I'm not here, I said slowly, make sure you tell him the truth. Then I turned and walked away. Not in anger, not in haste, just with finality. Behind me, I didn't hear the door close. Maybe she watched me walk to the curb. Maybe she didn't. I didn't care anymore. That night, I made myself a simple dinner, played a solo game of chess, sat on my small patio and looked at the stars. For the first time in months, I didn't feel trapped under someone's roof. I wasn't in exile. I was free. And for once, the silence didn't hurt. David found the trust paperwork in the box 2 days after I left. He didn't say anything at first, at least not to me. But I heard from Harvey that the phone calls started almost immediately. First to the office, then to the nonprofit I donated to. Finally, to my cell. 3 missed calls in 1 day. I didn't answer. It wasn't until the 4th voicemail that I listened. David's voice was tight, barely controlled. So that's it, he said. You give everything to Logan and strangers? You don't even give me a chance to explain? He hung up without explaining anything himself. Sarah, I learned, didn't take it as well. She thought you were broke, Harvey told me during one of our check-ins. Said it outright, like she'd been deceived. I smiled, not from satisfaction, but from confirmation. They hadn't seen me as family, just furniture, temporary, disposable. Back at their house, David went looking through drawers, old papers, bills, anything he'd never bothered to read before. That's when he found Mary's voice recorder. She used to dictate letters when her arthritis got bad. It was an old habit, one I'd forgotten she had. David played one entry, then another. Then came this one, dated just months before her death. If Jack ever comes back, I hope you listen, David. I hope you let him in. I know he wasn't perfect, but he was never absent because he didn't care. He was working every damn hour to keep us afloat. Don't let my silence make you bitter. I loved him, and I think, deep down, you still do too. Don't repeat his mistake by becoming the man who closes doors. David sat on the floor and cried. No one saw it. He didn't tell Sarah. But something shifted. 3 days later, I opened my front door to find David standing on my porch, hands in his pockets, eyes red. I listened to Mom's recordings, he said. I nodded, but didn't step aside. I didn't know, he continued. Or maybe I did, but I didn't want to admit it, that I let Sarah shape how I saw you. I stayed quiet. He looked down at the concrete. I didn't protect you. I let it happen. All of it. The air between us was heavy. Not with anger, just decades of missed chances. I want to fix this, he said. If you'll let me. I leaned against the doorframe. My voice was calm. Forgiveness, I said, isn't the same as forgetting. He nodded slowly. I understand. We stood in silence for a moment more. Then I stepped back, not to invite him in, but to give him space to leave with dignity. He took it. As for Sarah, the footage I'd compiled didn't stay buried long. Harvey sent a sealed version to my cousin, who sent it to an uncle, who sent it to a cousin's wife. By the end of the week, it had reached every corner of the family. Sarah's name was no longer spoken with respect at reunions. She tried to explain it away, called it edited, taken out of context. But context didn't matter when her voice said things no decent person should say, especially about someone offering nothing but presents. She stopped coming to family dinners. Eventually, even David stopped defending her. But I didn't rejoice. I didn't gloat. Because the truth is, victories like this feel empty when the people you once loved are the ones you had to protect yourself from. And yet, something strange happened. One afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Logan. The handwriting was messy. The grammar was off. But the message was clear. Hi, Grandpa. I miss you. I don't know why you don't live here anymore. But I think about you a lot. I kept the Lego you gave me. Mom doesn't know I'm writing this. Please don't forget me. I folded the letter carefully, placed it in Mary's journal, and whispered to the empty room, I never could. My new home isn't large. A single bedroom, creaky floors, and a porch that overlooks a patch of woods where birds seem louder than they should be. But I sleep better here than I ever did in the house I once called family. Mornings are slow. I make coffee strong enough to wake the dead, sit on the porch, and listen to nothing but wind and squirrels fighting over pine cones. Peace, I've learned, isn't about silence. It's about being able to choose who's allowed to speak into your life. Twice a week, I volunteer at a nearby senior home. I read books to men who've forgotten their children's names. I play cards with women who wear perfume like armor, hoping someone still notices them. And I listen. So many of them were cast aside, like I was. Some never had children. Some had too many. Some can't remember why they're alone, only that they are. I don't tell them my full story, just bits, just enough to let them know they aren't invisible, that someone sees them. I was midway through a chess game with an old vet named Harold when the letter arrived. It was folded inside a drawing. Crayon-sketched stars and a clumsy rocket ship with the words, "To Grandpa," scrawled in red. The letter was short. Grandpa, I'm almost 12 now. I read the book you gave me, the one with the knight who never gave up. I think you're like him. I told Dad I want to come see you when I'm older. He said, okay, I miss you. Don't forget me. Love, Logan. I sat with it in my lap for a long time, not crying, not smiling, just breathing. The hurt doesn't disappear. The betrayal doesn't rewrite itself. But moments like this, they soften the edges. I wrote back, of course, kept it simple, encouraging, hopeful. I told him about the birds, the squirrels, the way Harold cheats at chess and swears like he's still in uniform. I told him I was proud of him, and I told him I would wait. Sometimes, when the wind is just right, I sit outside and talk to Mary. Not aloud, just inside, like she's sitting beside me with that old blanket across her lap and her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. I tell her about the trust fund, about Harvey, about how David cried. I tell her about Sarah too, but only briefly. Mostly, I tell her I kept my promise, that I didn't become bitter, that I didn't burn down the bridge, even if I refused to walk across it again. And I tell her about Logan, how he reminds me of David at that age, curious, kind, too smart for his own good. I wonder what she would say if she saw him now. I think she'd be proud. Looking back, I don't pretend I was a perfect man. I missed too much. Let silence grow too long. Put work before birthdays and stability before presents. But I also know I did what I could with what I had. Regret is a shadow. It follows you, but it doesn't have to steer. Some doors, once closed, never open again. Some relationships collapse not from one grand betrayal, but from 1,000 tiny dismissals. And sometimes, family isn't blood. It's who remembers you when you're gone, who fights for you when you're silent, who waits at the door, not because they have to, but because they want to. I don't know if David and I will ever be what we once could have been. I think we both accept that. Some damage can't be undone. But Logan is a door that's still open. He's the echo of every lesson I learned too late and every hope I still carry. And so, I live. Not bitter, not broken, just honest. I grow tomatoes on the porch. I write in Mary's journal. I send letters to Logan and listen for his footsteps, even though they won't come for years. But when they do, I'll be here. Because love, real love, doesn't ask to be earned, but it must be built. And if nothing else, I'll leave him this, a name worth remembering.